Now, I believe I see Miss Hughes. I think this is her. So let's see if we have Geraldine Hughes. If I have the right area code. I don't have the right. I don't know if I have the right one.
Oh,
Miss Hughes, are you here?
Yes. How are you?
Welcome to
Can
King
you hear
Jordan
me?
Radio. Yes, I can hear you.
Wonderful.
How are you?
How are you? Oh, I'm fine, and I'm glad to be a part of your wonderful program again. Talking about a very, very, very wonderful man, Michael Jackson, on a beautiful day. It's today, his birthday.
Yes, yes. And before we do anything, you were with Mrs. Jackson last week, right?
Yes, I was down in Gary, Indiana, to the a celebration for Michael down in their hometown. Right, they usually do it right in the neighborhood. This year they did move it to a different venue, an indoors location, but it just wasn't the same. Usually they have it right there in the neighborhood. Last year, for the first time, they did it on the football field right behind the house at the Roosevelt School where the older brothers went to school. And last year was really nice, so we got a chance to see what it was like indoors. And I believe that next year we're going to be back on the outside because they really, the fans like being in the neighborhood of Michael Jackson. They don't, they felt a little bit closer to him by having it there. But it was wonderful. It was a beautiful affair. They had a lot for the children in Gary, Indiana, back to school, backpacks. They had rides. They had it was just wonderful. Mrs. Jackson does a very beautiful tribute to Michael every year.
Oh, she sure does. She sure does. And that was a beautiful picture. A lot of people mentioned on the comments. That was taken last week, right?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I try and take a lot of pictures because to me it's such a memorable, we actually got a chance to spend time with Mrs. Jackson. I went down a few days early this year to prepare for the event, and so we got some really nice quiet time with Mrs. Jackson and just sitting and talking, and she's such a beautiful lady. I mean, she's so wonderful. You could see where Michael got his beautiful heart when you get to know his mom. I mean, it was one point where I just looked at her and I just said, I see where Michael got that from. She's beautiful like that. She's got the most precious heart.
She really, I really hear that a lot. Now, I do want to play Mary Fisher, who actually, it sort of makes sense in terms of what happened in your book. Now, this audio was taped in 2004. She's talking about how the father of the 93 accuser potentially set up Michael Jackson. So let's play this clip of Mary Fisher, and let me give the video credit to Luna Joe 67, and I want to get your take on the other side.
Okay.
Made recently concerning allegations of improper conduct on my part. These statements about me are totally false. As I have maintained from the very beginning, I am hoping for a speedy end to this horrifying experience to which I have been subjected.
Tonight, Michael Jackson's lawyer vows his client won't be a piñata for people with financial motives. Is that what happened in 1993? Mary Fisher investigated the 93 accusations for GQ magazine and joins us from Los Angeles with more. Mary, first the question, do you think he was framed in 93? And if so, the follow-up question is, why do you think that?
I definitely think that he was the target of a plan to extract money from him, and I based that on a 5-month investigation that I did for GQ that looked at the accusers, the adults that were surrounding the boy who made the accusation, and I looked at who they were as people and to look at their motivations. And what I came up with was that 3 of them had questionable backgrounds, and that also the boy had been given a powerful psychiatric drug before he ever made any allegations against Jackson. And so there was a lot of evidence that hadn't come out before that strongly suggested that Jackson was the target of extortion.
Mary, was there any evidence at all that other than the boy and his family had ever seen anything to suggest a criminal activity about Michael Jackson? I mean, if you strip away the accusations from the one family that settled civilly, anybody else back them up?
There was no other corroborating evidence, as there often is in these cases of alleged child molestation. It's easy for someone to make an accusation, but it's very hard to defend against it. And that's because often there's no other evidence. There's the say-so of a child surrounded by adults who encourage the child to make these statements for their own motivations. And there's no other evidence. That was the case in '93, and so far that seems to be the case now.
In the '93 case, did the family first go to a lawyer for civil damages for money before they went to the prosecutor?
That's exactly right. The interesting thing is, if the parents of the first boy had genuinely believed that their son had been sexually molested by Jackson, you would think the first thing they would think to do would be go to the police. But they didn't do that. They went to an attorney, and the attorney then helped them with some sort of plan to extract money from Jackson. And then they brought in a psychiatrist who, by the way, had no experience with children, and met with the boy several times. And it was only after that, and after being given the drug, that the boy then said, yes, Jackson did inappropriate things to me.
All right, in terms of the drug, do you remember what the drug was?
Yes, it's sodium amytal, and it's a powerful psychiatric drug which, when under the influence, a person is highly suggestible. And that drug was given to the boy by the father of the boy and the father's friend, who was a dental anesthesiologist. And the dental anesthesiologist gave the boy the drug in a dentist's office.
Was there ever any accusation by the boy before this drug that Michael Jackson had been inappropriate with him?
In fact, he had been asked several times if anything inappropriate happened, and he had always said no. And then again, and this is what happens in some of these cases, in these instances, that a series of adults, whether it's police, the parents, psychiatrists, surround a child, and the child becomes influenced by these adults. And often there are false accusations that come out of this.
All right, this family, I mean, the mother and father are not married, right? There was also that element to it, that the family was falling apart.
Exactly right. In the first case, the parents were involved in a bitter custody and divorce battle. Also what happened is that Jackson had befriended the father and the boy and then got busy, moved on, and the father was disgruntled about the fact that Jackson was no longer as close to him as he had once been. That seems to be a parallel in this new case. And also in this new case, the fact that the parents did not take the boy or call the police, but they took him to a lawyer, a civil lawyer.
And the lawyers, is there any parity or similarity? Are the same, any lawyers from the '93 case hovering around this new case?
Well, the civil lawyer for the boy in the first case is also the attorney who the parents, the mother of this current boy took him to. So that's in common.
All right, and so what has happened to the family? Any quick update where he's now a young man, was a boy back then, '93. What's he up to?
You know, I haven't really kept on top of it. I understand he's living in the East Coast. I guess he's 22 years old, in college, but I don't know where. And to me, there's so many similarities with the old case and this current case that it's really important to reserve judgment before anybody comes to a conclusion about guilt or innocence here.
All right, Mary, thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, let me go to you, Geraldine Hughes. Does that sound familiar to you? Of course,
yes,
you have
I'm
your
very
book,
familiar.
Redemption.
Right.
Okay. Why don't you tell my audience?
I'm very familiar with that. Mary Fisher's article, Was Michael Jackson Framed? Because she actually wrote that article after Michael settled the case. And I actually came forward with my information that I had, because I was the legal secretary that worked for the attorney, Evan Chandler's attorney. I worked for the attorney that he went to try and help extract the money from Michael Jackson. And so my position is a little different. I was actually on the inside of the accuser's camp. And I literally did go, yes, I went and talked to the investigator. Well, I was actually still working for the attorney at the time, because, you know, that's when the charge, they had came out with the charge against Michael. And I had I'd seen so many things going on in the firm that I worked for, and it just a lot of it didn't make sense. I knew something was brewing, but I just never would have dreamed in 100 years that they, you know, and then so when it actually came out on the news that they were charging Michael, I knew from the very onset that it was all fabricated, and everything that didn't make sense on the inside, now it all added up. I said, no, so this is what they were planning and plotting. Okay, so it's up to the investigator, but when Michael settled the trial, all the information that was gathered, they were preparing to go to trial. They were not preparing to settle this case initially. But so when Michael made the decision to settle, all the information that they collected went nowhere. They never got a chance to go to trial with it and put, you know, and give all their evidence. So I don't know if it was a year later or just in that year later, I looked up and I saw Mary Fisher's article, Was Michael Jackson Frank? As soon as I saw that article, I said, wait a minute. That was the first time I saw anything that was pointing towards Michael's, the possibility that he was innocent. You remember that the media hype the world was going crazy with the lie all over the world, yes. The news media. And so this was the first time I saw anything. So my curiosity was just crazy. I went and I think I downloaded it and I read it. And this is the funny part. As I'm reading it, her article is talking about a source, one of her sources being a secretary that worked for him. Well, I was the only secretary that, and she was accurate though. Everything that she was writing was accurate, you know, all the way to the description of the attorney. And then I said, wait a minute, how did she get? I said, this is my information that I gave to the investigator. And I said, a light finally went off. I said, now I know what happened. He did do something with that information. He gave it to Mary Fisher, and she wrote her article. But I had to correct one thing that she put in there, because you had to be on the inside to really know what was going on. I never bought the sodium, whatever that theory. That's how. Yes. I didn't buy that. I saw what happened. The little boy I accidentally walked in on a meeting where it was just the attorney and the father was, no parents were in there with him. And in my book, I call it the secret meeting. And my attorney was livid when I just I just walked in without knocking. And the little boy had the strangest look on his face. I personally believe that was the meeting where that little boy was being groomed about what to say. I never bought the where he went to the dentist and he was put under, because every element of that was plotted and it was planned. It was very strategically, elaborately planned, all the way to you remember the part? I think she mentioned it too in her article, where they took the boy to the psychiatrist. Well, he had already queried the psychiatrist and asked, he sent a letter and said, well, what do you think about, an adult, spending time with a young boy, and the psychiatrist wrote him a letter and said, well, because I haven't met with him and talked with him, I can't give a conclusion. He said, but I would have reason to be suspicious. That's all the letter said. That's the letter that they used to go black. That was the letter that they used to blackmail Michael for $20 million. It was not conclusive. It was just we called it a query letter. That's it. But that was all they had in their hand. So they had already queried the and got got feedback on. We have to be concerned, but I can't really tell you conclusively. So this is the part that only somebody from the inside could tell you. When they were going to court and fighting for the custody, because in order to plan this thing, he just took the boy away from the mom without no court order or anything. And the mom, went to court and got a hearing to get the boy back. And when they went to court, the judge, come on, this is common sense now. There was a hearing based on the boy's custody in front of a judge. If you felt like your child was being abused in any kind of way, and then you go to court and you go before a judge and you say nothing to that judge about any suspicion of him being abused in any kind of way, and so minus that information, the judge ordered the boy to be returned back to the mom that day, as a matter of fact. And I'm in the office, I'm like, wow, I kind of felt like they had played so many games. In my heart, I felt like they were going to play another game, but I never dreamed the game today. This was the final blow. Instead of bringing the boy back to the mom 2 days, I think it was 2 days later, that's when they took the boy to the psychiatrist where he made the accusation. It was so strategic on the inside.
Wow, that is unbelievable. And we'll get more into your book, but I do want to play for Michael on his Chris Tucker Lives. This is a clip where Chris Tucker has some funny things to say about Mr. MJ. Let's sit back for a few minutes and enjoy Chris Tucker. Did you hear this clip with Chris Tucker? Have you heard the... It's relatively new. It came out about a month ago.
Oh, okay. No, I don't think I've heard it.
Okay, you're in for a treat. Here we go. Chris Tucker.